Is it insulting to Peyton Manning that we question and dissect every single throw he makes now, and that we're saying that anybody, not we, Woody and I, but some people, like the guys at Pro Football Focus, are saying that most any other quarterback could be 4-0 with this Broncos team because the defense is so good?
Well, he's created such an expectation that he gets viewed through a different lens, fair or not. Now, Pro Football Focus, they do it, in their own analytics, and it's objective in their mind. They don't always know all the assignments, so there's some margin for error. It's not the war stat in baseball. It's a little different for that because it's not just numbers. But in Manning's case, I would disagree with them that any quarterback could be 4-0 because there's very few good quarterbacks in the league, frankly. And when Manning's had to make a couple plays, he did it. So you don't know that other quarterbacks would make a fourth quarter drive as he did against the Chiefs, as he did against the Ravens. Did he play great games? Has he played a great game? Probably not. But again, this idea that any quarterback can just guide a fourth quarter drive, I don't believe that. I watch enough football every week and see how much poor quarterback play is. I just don't believe that. The pressure is, players react to pressure differently. So to just see everything in a vacuum, I think is unfair to guys who do perform in the clutch.
Well, Troy, let me take this side of Sam Motson, who we had on here. If you had Luke McCowan or Josh McCowan or Luke Walton, if you played well in the first two quarters, that game should have been over at halftime yesterday, that you wouldn't have to have those special plays by Manning at the end of the game.
Well, that's certainly the truth. Yesterday, that Manning kept the Vikings in the game. What I'm saying is, yeah, he put them in that position. So maybe they're going to argue that another quarterback wouldn't. Again, I completely disagree with that premise. And then if you're saying that, then John Elway's career is suddenly viewed with suspicion because he put himself in fourth quarter situations. Either he or Dan Reeves is play calling, put himself so every quarterback can just, they'd be fine. I just don't believe that. Now, this defense is playing special, Woody. There's no doubt. However they end up in those situations, somebody still has to execute. And if you're going to tell me backup quarterbacks are going to get it done, there's two quarterbacks that won a game, backups who won a game this year. Johnny Manziel was one of them. It doesn't happen. Brandon Whedon, the Cowboys are ready to probably go to Matt Castle. So this idea that any quarterback can win in the NFL is a complete fallacy.
Based on what we saw in the preseason, if Brock Osweiler was at quarterback, Troy, and people were impressed with his play in the exhibition games, would the Broncos be in this situation? Would they be 4-0? And that's a hypothetical question. And
I have no idea because I don't know how Brock would react in a real game. He looked great in the preseason. He made progress. He did everything they've asked. But until he does it in games that matter, it's spring training at bats compared to real bats. Until he does it in meaningful situations, I can't sit here and tell you, they'd be 4-0 with Brock. I don't know that. Because for the picks that Manning's made, there's other throws he's made that Brock can't make and other quarterbacks can't make still. And there's audibles that Manning makes into plays that we're not always aware of that create success in the running game even that perhaps Brock doesn't make. So that's where it's hard. There's a gray area here. Has Brock made progress? Absolutely. He's on the right track. But until he does it in a real game, I'm going to withhold judgment.
What about the little things, Troy? I'm gonna follow your theme because I love it that we can't get you on without baseball terms. The little things, moving a runner over, getting a guy home from third base with less than 2 outs. That why wouldn't you then, if you're developing the running game, go to a true West Coast offense where he just dinks and dunks? They're either asking him to or he's asking himself to make more difficult throws. Why aren't they throwing it to C.J. Anderson in the flat? Why aren't they throwing it to Ronnie Hillman out of the backfield? Why aren't they throwing to the slot? Norwood disappeared. Why aren't they throwing it to the slot receiver? Why are they making throws that are difficult for Peyton Manning, a 15-yard out pattern? Explain that to me.
Well, yeah, no, they've adjusted. Those are good questions and good observations, Woody, as always. Part of it is this. They put a certain offense in April, in May, and they're not able to get to the plays they want to run. So to say, why not change to this or that? They are changing so much right now that would just overwhelm this process. They are literally, as I watch it, it's kind of trial and error, finding plays that work within the plays they've practiced and kind of junking the ones that aren't. And as they figure out which plays work best, I think then they start adding the plays you're talking about. But they're already kind of scrambling and drawing it up in the dirt a little bit. So, but going back to plays they practice in April, May, and June, and July. So now, as they figure out what are those core plays that work for Manning, I think then they start adding. But to add now, when they haven't even really figured out who they are, I think it complicates it.
Oh, Troy, but I got to argue with you, Troy. Troy, they've had the bubble screen in this system for 4 years. How many bubble screens have we seen to Demaryius? 3, maybe, in 4 games?
Many, in my opinion, because he nearly got knocked out of the game. That play needs to go away right now because it's going to get him hurt if you're not going to pull a guard.
Well, it also looks like teams know when it's coming.